Hey, how's it hanging, guys? I'm Dom, and in today's video I wanted to discuss the Google Pixel Watch, which I've now been daily driving for around 6 months. Now, I must admit, I was hoping to do this review a little bit differently, but because of the weather, as well as a handful of other circumstances, I couldn't do it. But the plan was to take you out with me on a pretty active day of my life, and I wanted to take you on, well, I guess a cycle ride to show you how the watch performs during that. I wanted to take you into a city. I was thinking about either Cardiff or Bristol, as there doesn't seem to be much tech reviews filmed in that sort of region, and show you how some of the features such as the maps work on this watch, and how the step tracking works, that sort of thing, and most importantly of all, how the battery performs during that time. But unfortunately, the weather has been horrible every time I was planning to go out. So what I decided to do is, for the time being, since the weather isn't great, I just decided to do this 6-month review in my office, and I'm hoping that at some point in August I'm going to be able to take you along a little trip with me with the Pixel Watch, but we'll see how that goes. No promises just yet. But anyway, let's start talking about the more important thing here, the Pixel Watch. So, from what I read online, the Pixel Watch has quite a lot of mixed feelings about it, especially from the tech community. But it actually surprises me. I mean, let's start with one of the most important things, and that's the battery life. Obviously, the battery life doesn't sound great when it's advertised. It's one of the things that initially put me off from getting the Pixel Watch. But I'm actually in for a very pleasant surprise. Now, if you follow my blog at techwithdom.com, you may have read a few articles where I discuss this, but I managed to get around 1.5 days worth of battery out of this, and the way that I do it is by, well, having a pretty decent charging routine. So, in order for you to understand that, I need to explain to you a little bit how I use my watch. So, for starters, I use it for sleep tracking. I think that some of the sleep tracking on this is pretty decent. I also use it throughout my day. So, where does that leave me to charge? I know a lot of people leave their smartwatches on charge during the night. Unfortunately, that's not an option for me. So what I do as a morning routine, I wake up, and obviously I use my watch as an alarm clock here. I wake up, I put it on charge. I've purchased, I'm not sure if you can see it, but there is a little charging stand here which I use to charge it with. It's literally just a rubber stand which I use, and I've connected my charger with it. I think it's a pretty nice touch. Unfortunately, there aren't many compatible chargers with this. In fact, I've only ever used a Pixel Watch charger with that watch. I think it's a nice addition to have on my desk. So what I do is I put the watch, I leave it to charge whilst I go about doing the rest of my morning routine. And as I'm about to either start work if I'm working from home, or head into the office, I simply take the watch off. It's usually around 90%, sometimes it's more, sometimes 100%, and that leaves me an entire day's worth of usage.
I don't know, but I found these results on search.
It lasts me throughout the entire day and the night, and usually when I wake up in the morning, the battery is at around, was it 20%, sometimes more, and then I start all of that again. Now, there was a time which I'll admit is a little bit embarrassing, and I have written an article about it. I'll link it down below in the description of this video. But basically, I've got a charging station here. It's like an Anchor charging station. I'm charging quite a few things. I'm not sure if you can see that. It's literally a little nice charging hub. And I also connect the Pixel Watch charger to it. But I was charging a few other things during the evening, and I've completely forgotten to connect my Pixel Watch charger to it. And as the morning came, I was pretty tired. I haven't had my coffee. I put the watch on charge and went about my morning routine. And I didn't check whether the watch is on charge until I got to the train station, got on the train, and then the watch notified me that there's, well, I think it was about 16% or something along those lines. Can't remember off the top of my head. But I was like, wow. At the end of the day, I wasn't too disappointed because it gave me a great opportunity to see how long the battery will last in ultra low power mode. I can't remember how or when the watch died now, officially died. I went into ultra low power mode, which basically just gives you a clock, and that's it. But that clock was basically there until I got home at the end of the day, and it was still going. So that's technically 2 days worth of battery and telling the time. Now, I think the watch did die halfway through the day and went into this ultra low power mode. I can't remember exactly when it happened, but I was still able to tell the time, and that's the main thing. I was very satisfied with that. Now, in my opinion, this isn't a watch I would take with me to the mountains or out on longer trips, anything like that, simply because it won't last more than 2 days, unfortunately. It won't even last more than 1.5 days. If I'm going on a longer trip where I won't necessarily have access to charging, I would probably take something like the Garmin Instinct, which is something I'm planning to take with me on my holiday in a few weeks' time, going to the mountains. But yeah, as far as battery is concerned, as an everyday smartwatch, I think it's great. Now, let's move on to the performance, which is another thing that a lot of people have been asking me about. I think that this watch actually performs incredibly well. Now, I have had watches in the past running Android Wear or even Wear OS where you felt them stutter. They constantly stuttered, they constantly froze and restarted themselves, and that's just something that I haven't had with the Pixel Watch, not even on one occasion. The watch, even though it has an older chip, actually performs incredibly well, which I'm happy to say is brilliant. That's what you want at the end of the day from a smartwatch. Now, I had quite a few of these Android-style smartwatches now, and I think that the Google Pixel Watch experience beats all of them. I've had the Samsung Galaxy Watch 5, I had the TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra, and I've also had several Android Wear smartwatches from back in the day, and none of these watches, the experience on none of these watches was as good as it is on the Google Pixel Watch. I do have a complaint about the Pixel Watch, and it's not the battery or it's nothing like that. My main complaint is not really Google's fault, although maybe a little bit of it is. And that's the fact that there aren't many mainstream Wear OS apps available on the App Store. Now, I'm absolutely over the moon to hear that WhatsApp is coming to Wear OS. I've actually been testing the beta version on the Pixel Watch, and I think it's pretty decent. But I do feel that more apps should be available, especially from Google. I would love there to be a to-do list app, the Google Tasks app, which is another thing I've actually recently written about on my blog. But basically, I've started using Google Tasks quite a lot, which is a pretty decent, nice, simple app for task management. And I feel that it would be brilliant. It would be amazing if that app was also available on Wear OS, because it would stop me from having to go into my phone. It would stop me from having to go into the browser to look at tasks. I also feel that Gmail should have a version or variation of a local app on the watch. But I also feel that other app vendors should support the platform. It would be very nice to see as many mainstream app vendors support it as they support the Apple Watch, but I think we still have a few years to wait before we see any of that. Now, moving on to Fitbit. Fitbit is another thing I get asked about quite a lot. I haven't used Fitbit before getting the watch for quite a while. In fact, the last Fitbit I've used was the Fitbit Blaze, and that was a pretty decent watch, but Fitbit has changed a long way since I last used it, and the main thing here is they brought in the subscription-based model, which I'm not sure if I'm a fan of. I mean, I've had the free 6-month subscription. In fact, I think the first payment was taken out at the beginning of the month, if I'm not mistaken, for it, and I'm not sure if I'm going to continue renewing it. I mean, the only thing I really use on it is the advanced sleep. The only thing I really use on it is the advanced sleep tracking, as well as the readiness score. I don't really tend to use any of the other features, so it would be nice to see if they bring in a lower pricing tier. The app itself is I don't know what to think about it, to be fair. It's not a bad app. I've seen much worse apps before, but I do feel that the widgets are a little bit dated. It would be nice to have the Android app overhauled a little bit. Same goes for the version of the app on the watch. I certainly feel that there isn't enough information being shown on the app, and I'm saying that as someone who's come from the Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 as well as the TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra, and so far the best out of all Wear OS watches I've had in terms of the health app experience is the TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra. I absolutely adored the little map it gave me and the details that it provided me during the workout. I think it's a pretty decent thing to have. Unfortunately, I feel that the Fitbit app here is a little bit limited. But I think what you have to remember with the Google Pixel Watch is that this isn't really a fitness watch. It's more of an everyday smartwatch with Fitbit built in, so that you have slightly more advanced fitness features should you need them, which I think is actually pretty cool. Now, to summarize my 6-month review, I seriously think that it was worth the price. I mean, it was a little bit more on the expensive side, and I did have my doubts about the watch, but I'm happy to say that I was wrong. You know, I was wrong to have those doubts because it's actually a really, really nice watch. Now, I will continue using this watch as my main watch for the foreseeable future, so expect to see more content. And yeah, that leads me to my final thing, and that is, would I recommend it? I think I definitely would recommend the watch, especially if you are already in the Google Pixel ecosystem. I think that the watch is a brilliant addition to my ecosystem. I'm currently trialing out the entire Google ecosystem. My main phone is the Google Pixel 7 Pro. I've got the Google Pixel Buds Pro. I've got a Pixel Watch now, as well as a whole bunch of Google Home devices, which I think as a whole work really, really well together. But I'll be making more content about the Pixel Watch over the next couple of months, so stay tuned for that. Till next time.